money, then you're going to get a thank you card right away.
Welcome everyone. This regular meeting of the Central Berkshire Regional School Committee will come to order at 7:01 on January 25th, 2018. Just to know that this meeting is being recorded, and if anyone's recording this meeting in the audience, please disclose that now. I don't think there are. So we'll move on. Those who are able, please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge
allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Superintendent, please take roll.
Dr. Caprice? Here. Mr. Tomaso? Here. Mr. Farley?
Here.
Mr. Mazzillo?
Here.
Mr. Haig-Murray can't be with us tonight. Mr. Hopper?
Here.
Ms. Keith is not with us. Mr. Locatell?
Here.
Mrs. Lazzori? Here. Mr. Les? Mr. Peters is right here. Mrs. Tucker? Here. Mr. Wagner?
Here.
Mr. Armacost?
Here.
We have an open seat in Washington. Mr. Bartels can't be with us tonight. Our CBA rep is not here, and our student rep, Zach,
Is here.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you. The chair validates this agenda in accordance with open meeting law. And are there any responses from the audience this evening? Seeing none, we'll move on to Mr. McCain's high school report.
So we just started off the third term, and one of the things that's coming up this weekend is we have the robotics competition. So our robotics team is 5 or 6 people have been meeting twice a week, and we're going out to a competition in eastern Massachusetts. And today, during practice, we actually met with a couple people from one of our sponsors, Crane & Company. So we got to show them how the robot's working, what we're planning to do during the competition, and it was really nice to meet with them. In sports, the girls' basketball and swimming are both doing really well. Girls' basketball is 9-2 and swimming is 5-2 for the games. And boys' basketball has 6 wins in the game against Mount Greylock right now, so wish them luck. And the boys' swimming is undefeated, so they're doing really well. The cheerleading team is continuing with their fundraisers. They're hosting a pasta dinner at the Dalton Fire Station on January 27th. It's 4 to 7 p.m. at the Dalton Fire Station. And they're also doing with Zuko's in Pittsfield on January 30th. If you go to eat at Zuko's and tell your server that you want to support the cheerleading team on the 30th, then they'll give a portion to the bill to the cheerleading team. So it'll really help them out and get them to their goal for their trip to Florida. Yeah.
Any questions for Zach? Okay, thank you.
Good luck. Good luck. Good luck.
Okay, moving on to the agenda, would a member please make a motion to accept the minutes of the regular meeting of January 11th?
Move to approve the minutes of the regular meeting of January 11th as printed. Second.
We have a second. All those, is there any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor of accepting the minutes of the meeting of January 11th, 2018, please indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? Motion carries. Will a member please call the warrants?
Move to approve warrant number 2018-27 dated January 26, 2018. Accounts payable in the amount of $679,017.15.
Second.
We have a motion and a second to approve warrant number 2018-27. Is there any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions?
Thanks.
One abstention, motion carries.
Move to approve warrant number PR 2018-30 dated January 25th, 2018. Payroll in the amount of $615,232.10.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second to approve warrant number PR-2018-30. Is there any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions?
Abstain.
One abstention, the motion carries.
Move to approve warrant number 2018-26D dated December 28th, 2017. Accounts payable in the amount of $230,459.75.
Second.
We have a motion and a second to approve warrant number 2018-26 Delta. Is there any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Abstentions?
Abstain.
One abstention, the motion carries. Moving on the order of business, we have a gift to Nessicus. Will the member please make the motion?
Be resolved that the Central Berkshire Regional School Committee accept the following donation of robotic Lego blocks to the Nessicus Regional Middle School Maker Space from David Lennon.
Second.
We have a motion and a second to approve a donation to Nessicus Middle School. Is there any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Abstentions? Motion carries. Okay, for report of the chair, we'll just note again that we still have a vacancy in the town of Washington. Also, I've got a couple of unprinted communications here. The Berkshire County Education Task Force rescheduled their previous January 4th meeting for February 1st. That's next Thursday, 6:30 to 8:30 p.m. here in Nessicus. So if anybody's interested, feel free to come in and listen to the meeting that night. And they can talk more about their organization and what they want to do to help the county than anything else. Finally, there will be a 7-town advisory meeting. The letter's going to be going out probably over the weekend for Tuesday, February 13th, 7 p.m. here. And right now on the docket for the agenda that evening would be discussion of the 19 budget. That'll be after our interim budget and right before the public hearing. Talk about the Wacona building project, and also we want to address the basically reaction to the task force presentation at the last meeting. The superintendent and I have been discussing that, and we just want to put some stuff out there to clarify some of the things that were said, some of the things that didn't reflect where we really are in the district, so we want to straighten that out. We don't want our towns to be confused about, certain facts. That's all I have. We'll move on to curriculum, unless someone has a comment or question.
What about the proposed change to the reading for the 7th town meeting? Does that put the cart before the horse?
If we are ready for it, we'll discuss it, but I don't know if we're going to be ready.
Well, we'll talk about it in any event at the 7th town.
Okay, so we'll add that too.
And that meeting will be here at Nessicus?
Yes. Okay. Dr. Crefries, curriculum.
We had a curriculum meeting this evening at 6:15 here, and our committee discussed 3 items. The first of which is an overnight field trip, and it's happening March 3rd through the 5th, and it's the Business Professionals of America State Conference and Competition. It's going to be held at Framingham, Massachusetts. The students will be leaving Saturday, March 3rd at 7:45, and returning Monday at approximately 4:30. So there will be one day of school that will be missed. The teachers in charge are Jeff Pike and Cindy Durkee, and it's being funded by the BPA Student Activities from Wacona, and also a portion of it will be funded by the Perkins Grant. It covers some of the activities, and teachers are paying their own fees. And they're going to be staying at the Sheraton Terra in Framingham, that big castle up on the hill. So I'd like to make be it resolved that the Central Berkshire Regional School Committee approve an overnight field trip for the Wacona Business Professionals of America to Framingham, Massachusetts, March 3rd through 5th, 2018, as recommended by the Curriculum Subcommittee.
Okay, we have a motion and a second for approval of an overnight field trip for the Wacona Business Professionals of America to Framingham. And that is in the packet on page 1. Is there any discussion? Okay, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Abstentions? Motion carries.
Thank you. The next thing on the agenda was the approval of AP Spanish to the Wacona Regional High School Program of Study and the approval of AP French to the Wacona Regional High School Program of Study. And we'll kind of do those together. So Wacona currently offers 3 modern and classical languages, and it's 5 levels of French, 5 levels of Spanish, 4 levels of Latin. And Aaron Robb pointed out that we're one of the few schools our size in Western Mass remaining to offer 3 languages. That's pretty impressive. The anticipated enrollment, currently we have 44 students in Spanish 4, and some will take Spanish 5, they'll continue, but others will be recommended for the AP Spanish. There are 12 students currently in French 4, and some will continue and take French 5 concurrently with 4. It's kind of a blended program of 4-5. And others will be recommended for AP French. And the admission into AP is contingent upon a teacher recommendation. There will be no extra cost for the district because the implementation will involve kind of a restructuring of some of the current teachers who are on staff. So somebody from Nessicus will be freed up to move to the high school, and they'll rearrange their schedules so everybody will be at full capacity and it will not impact the budget. Currently, Tracy Harrison will teach AP Spanish and Suzanne Polo will teach AP French. The impact on student learning is that there will be now 12 AP courses available to students, which is pretty consistent. Lori gave us some numbers from other schools, other districts in the area, and we're pretty consistent with other schools our size. It's been an increase. This is the impressive thing that I think is great. It's been an increase in 8 courses in 4 years. So that's really a direction to keep moving and changing the rigor, adding to the rigor. So I think that's great. It's greater opportunity for students to be exposed to at least AP courses before they attend college, and they can get college credit if they achieve a certain grade on their test. So, let me go to my, thank you. I would like to be it resolved that the Central Berkshire Regional School Committee approve the addition of course AP Spanish to the Wacona Program of Studies as recommended by the Curriculum Subcommittee.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second for approval of addition of AP Spanish at Wacona Program of Studies. Is there any discussion? Mr. Locktell.
Well, I like the idea that we're adding rigor to the program. And I like the idea that we're adding breadth, more choices for students. But everything I've heard is that singletons are the bane of scheduling. And we certainly are adding singletons, and 2 singletons if both languages get added. So it makes scheduling harder. Well, I'm still for it, but there are a lot of things to consider. Scheduling would be one of them. And the other thing that I've always had a question about, we add AP courses, but we ought to look at how many of the students actually pass the AP test. And if it's pretty low, like I would say lower than 50%, I'd question whether we really should be offering that course or not. But those are my comments. I haven't seen the data, and I trust that other people have, and I respect the recommendations.
Okay.
But I wish
I'll
that
check it.
we would look at things rigorously before we recommend them.
Mr. Robb, can you speak to the scheduling? Is that something that concerns you?
Mr. Locatell is right in the fact that when you create AP courses, you create essentially more singletons in a school our size. So you kind of have to do a little bit of a cost-benefit analysis and determine whether or not it's worth it. We think it's worth it because we have students who want to push themselves to take those particular courses. I likened it to the fact that, what I call the original core four, the AP US History, AP Physics, AP Calculus, and AP English was attracting a certain type of student, whereas when you have AP Music Theory, when you have AP Government, when you have AP French, AP Spanish, it attracts a wider range of students and exposes them to a college-level course prior to getting to high school. It gives them a chance to earn credit, possibly save money down the road as well. I do understand the Singleton concern. We're prepared and able to schedule it for sure, based on the way the staffing is going to work. We've already mapped out how it's going to work. What it does do, kind of to your point, is it does put kids in a position of which AP courses do I really want to take? What path do I really want to follow? Because you can't take them all. And actually what's happened is I think that there's a lot more intelligent conversations about what AP courses to take that's been going on over the last few years. As the opportunities have grown to take them, we're actually seeing fewer students taking 4, where what it used to be, it was the same kids taking all 4. They're kind of dialing it back a little bit and being a little bit more strategic about which ones to take. So I certainly understand the concern about the scheduling, but we do have a plan that will work for us for this year for sure.
Is there any answer or assessment of the success rate in terms of taking the AP exam?
For all courses?
In general.
In general, it quite frankly, it depends on the course. Back when I presented the school improvement plan in the fall, I'll give an example, AP Biology, our AP Stats, our AP Calculus, over the last few years have done well, and AP Stats and AP Bio we're 3 years in on that program. So those students are getting qualifying, the majority of them are getting qualifying scores, whereas AP Government, the vast majority were not getting qualifying scores, and we had to look at why. There was 2 years ago, one of the things that we did is we offered it every other day up against AP Macroeconomics to give students an opportunity to take both, and we realized that was probably not the best idea because that every other day approach created some inconsistencies as far as teaching and learning goes. So we dialed AP Government back to a semester course so it can fit in with the other social studies requirements that we have, and students could take it to fulfill their requirement. But AP Government really is, in most schools, a full-year course. So there's another example of something that we're going to tweak for next year so that we can actually offer it as a full-year course. So we're kind of taking a look at, if students aren't doing well in this course, let's take a look at the setting and the circumstances first before looking at who's taking it. That's where we're at right now.
The other thing that was mentioned too was that there's a definite increase in the level of preparedness of students coming from the middle school into the high school. And that was another thing that was very gratifying to hear.
Okay, is there any more discussion?
I think also to keep in mind with the AP classes, it's not just about getting a qualifying score on your AP exam, which is great for if you want college credit, but a lot of, especially the seniors, it looks really good on your transcript for colleges to be taking AP classes. You won't take the AP test before you get your, you take the AP test after you get your acceptances. So you may end up with college credit, but the college is looking at your transcript, and if you're in a really competitive grouping, we're going to start weeding out based on like AP classes. So.
Okay. Anything else? Okay, all those in favor of adding the AP Spanish indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Abstentions? Motion carries.
Okay. Sort of the same story for AP French at Wacona Regional High School. So everything that I discussed prior to with the Spanish applies to the French. So Be it resolved that the Central Berkshire Regional School Committee approve the addition of course AP French to the Wacona Program of Studies as recommended by the Curriculum Subcommittee.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second for approval of adding AP French at Wacona Program of Studies. Is there any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? Motion carries. 2 new courses.
Thank you.
Is there anything else from curriculum?
Yes, we have a next meeting scheduled for March 8th. April, March 8th, yes.
It's 6:15.
At Wacona. Oh,
No,
no,
that's
Jessica's again, I'm sorry.
That's good. Okay, thank you. Finance.
Yes, we had a meeting on January 16th. First topic that we covered was Berkshire Health Group, their high deductible plan. We had a discussion and a presentation from Heidi Fontaine of the Blue Cross. She's a Blue Cross accounts executive, so she was able to give us some insight into the high deductible plan and the accompanying HSA. That's a healthcare savings account, and how that might be used by, if we were to offer it, how it might be used by our employees. So we also had some discussion that followed in regards to how that would impact our PEC agreement, and we've had some consultation, and we'll continue to have some consultation with Attorney Dubray on that, and more to come when we have some more specific recommendations around that plan. Just healthcare plans in general, if you've opened up the paper in the last few days, are a relatively hot topic. So we're trying to be as educated as possible as we move forward with that. The other, I'm going to skip over the regional agreement amendment because I'm going to have Mr. Lacatell speak to that and answer some questions on that if anybody has them. But the other things that we discussed at finance were we took a little bit of a deep dive into the tentative budget, which was very well presented by Ms. Valkowski and Ms. Kasna. And we went over the second quarter financial report, which was very sound as well. Total expenditures were about 41% of the budgeted amount, and it's just what the Finance Committee would have expected at this time of the year. We did not have an executive session, and our next meeting will be Tuesday the 30th at 6 o'clock at the central office. And then I'm going to let Mr. Lacatell talk a little bit about the amendments that we reviewed at finance in regards to the regional agreement.
In your packet, I've got a information sheet. It's shown on page 7. And in back of that would be a changed regional agreement. What happened was we made a number of changes, and Desi has seen these changes at least 2 or 3 times. And we made a few more, and we sent it to Desi, and Desi came back with a number of other comments. And all of the comments were superficial or cosmetic. In some cases, they commented to stuff they had already seen. They really never commented to the core changes to the regional agreement. So I'm not going to offer that amendment tonight. I'm going to wait until we have the final version, which I expect to have it in a couple of days. And we'll probably, depending on when we get that, we'll go over that, or at least make it available in the Finance Committee and bring it back at the next meeting when we have the final version. But very, very little is changed. So I'd like to go through the explanation that's in your packet so that everybody understands where we're coming from and what to look for. First of all, the grouping of the background of this agreement is that it was written in the late 1950s. At that time, DESI didn't exist, and Massachusetts general laws had been expanded greatly in, 30, 40, 50 years since then. The last time we amended the regional agreement was 1992, which is 25 years ago. And at that time, up until that time, we had had 9 previous amendments to the agreement. And these were things like when we added 4 additional towns, the payment dates of the assessments that the towns make to the district. We changed the representation on the school committee, changed the size of the school committee. I think that's about all of those 9 amendments were in those categories. Education reform hit in 1993, which changed everything greatly, a whole new set of laws. We had to do things differently. But we never changed the agreement after education reform hit. So we made all of these changes, submitted it to DESI, and DESI had a lot of other changes that I went over with the finance subcommittee. So there are quite a few changes, not too much that's substantial. The substantive changes are, first of all, that we made provisions for OPEB when a town leaves the district or when one joins the district. Prior to that, OPEB didn't exist, and that was an argument that was used in the discussions with Cummington. Also, there was no way to calculate the OPEB charges. Well, there's no real formula in the new version, but it takes out ways that one could claim it should be calculated. For example, OPEB is not a capital cost. So it's, we say in the new version that you can't use the capital formula for calculating OPEB. The assessment technique that we use for assessing costs of the towns is dictated by Mass General Law, and that's called the statutory technique, and we didn't say that before. Well, now we say it. There's one other technique you could use, but we don't choose to do that. There were references that were incorrect. DESI, when they saw it, they said, oh, we've got to approve every amendment. We've got to approve when a town enters the district. We've got to approve when the town leaves the district. Well, that didn't happen 25 years ago. DESI didn't exist. And DESI has a heavy hand nowadays that's gotten heavier as time has evolved. There were details in the original agreement that are wrong. One of these was the financial accounts. We had restrictions on the trust. We now have an OPEB trust, and it violates the provision of the regional agreement, so that's been changed. In 1957, we didn't have pre-K. Districts now do have pre-K, and that's dictated by Mass General Law. There are a lot of restrictions on that, so we incorporated that into the regional agreement. Now, what has not changed and what towns are often nervous about, the towns are the same. We've still got 7 towns in this update. The way we assess costs to the towns is unchanged. It has been correct for 25 years. The school committee is exactly the same as it was 25 years ago. And the way to amend the regional agreement, with the exception of DESI's approval, is unchanged from the way it was. So that's substantively what's changed in the new version. You can all go through it, and if you look at it closely, you find a lot of clarifications and simplifications, but substantively there's not much more. So I guess the only thing I would add is that there are a lot of changes that could be put in. If you were to go to one of our towns, they would say, yeah, we should change this. But we've been through that before, and while one town may want it, 1 or 2 towns won't want it, and it won't pass. So there should be nothing controversial in this change. And of course, there's a lot of editing that I've already mentioned. So if anybody has looked at it, and if anybody has any question, I'd be happy to entertain that.
How many towns can shoot this down?
2.
2. And if that does happen and there is no provision for a trust, what happens?
Have to wait for somebody to sue us.
So keep paying the lawyers.
Well, there's also Mass General Law, which always supersedes the regional
They
agreement.
gave us the ability to start one, so.
Yeah, yeah.
Okay.
Okay, that's all I have. Hopefully, I'll be back at the next meeting with the motion and,
Well, before you do that, I know I won't be here on the 8th. I have a business trip that day, so there's a problem that presents. In order for this to pass, we need 12 members to agree to it. You see how many we have with us this evening, minus me, that's going to make, if Mr. Hagmeyer's here and everybody else is here, we're okay.
I'm not going to be here.
I'm not going to be here.
Okay, how about the 15th? That's our next meeting after that, which is our public hearing. We shifted that. We changed our scheduling last year in the event that we had a meeting that would occur during the week of winter vacation. So it's been moved up a week. We've got, probably this is the first time we've had 2 back-to-back weeks. Does anyone have any objections to the 15th?
I won't be here either.
Yeah, we could probably do without one, but, okay.
What are the calls for the adoption of the,
No,
is that just majority?
no, I'm talking about for regional agreement. The time of budget adoption is majority.
Okay, present.
But we have to have one.
We have to be able to have a quorum, and it has to be the majority of the quorum.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay. Any questions? The only one, I guess, so I'll continue on that topic for a minute. We've spoken with our attorney about what's hurting us. It's twofold. One is that we have one vacancy and we have one member that hasn't been with us in over a year now. So what I want to do is talk to our attorney again and find out what provisions there are, if any, if we have a vacancy. The thing I look at, and I'm not quite sure how to interpret it, is under Section 1, Item A2. I can use my imagination. My imagination can run wild with that statement. So I'm not sure if that's an out or not, but I don't like looking for outs, but if there is something that allows us to make an exception when we have a vacancy, I want to know about it. So that's all. Anything else for finance?
That concludes my report.
Thank you. And in Mr. Hagmeyer's absence, is there anyone that wishes to report on policy? Haven't had a meeting? I do have a question, though. Is there anything moving forward in terms of the public relation plan? I know that we spoke about that a while ago, but... Okay.
It hasn't been a topic of meetings. I see it.
Okay. And in terms of personnel, I believe everything we have tonight, according to Vice Chair Locatell, is executive session, so if the committee does not object, we'll leave that till the end and we can adjourn from executive session. And finally, Mr. Farley.
The person that isn't showing up from the town, is that person resigned? I mean,
No.
is that an open position? or-
No, there's been no official resignation.
So there's not a vacancy there?
There's not a vacancy there.
No.
So there's really nothing we can do about that. We did appeal to the town government to try to encourage or find a replacement through, which would have to mean a resignation and appointment, but, yeah. Technology?
Well, we have not met, and right now, there's no plans to.
Okay. I just, a thought on that, from my perspective, you brought up the thing last time about the cyber courses.
Yes.
How much are we looking into cybersecurity, information assurance, from the perspective of protecting records, breakages into the website that would be hacking the website? It's just a personal question on my part.
Good guy.
Mr. White?
We're very concerned about that, but most of our services like that are SaaS services, software as a service, so they're off-site, so the responsibility would be the vendor. For instance, PowerSchool is our student information system. It's all held on servers within PowerSchool's domain, so it would be up to PowerSchool to protect our student information data. They have assured us that it is protected, and so as far as we're concerned, that should be good. Again, it is certainly a concern. It's always a concern, especially when you hear about all these huge corporations that should have incredible amounts of security that are broken into every day. A lot of our systems now are off-site, are not on-site. Most of the things that are on-site are not sensitive. Printing data. I shouldn't say that. There is some sensitive data, certainly in printed material, but it's also not a big target. The only other thing would be our financial system, which is still on site, but we have that as protected as we can get it. We probably should, in the near future, try to look at some other software as a service off-site for that as well. My guess is they actually probably offer that at this point. Does that answer your question?
It does.
Okay.
And you're looking at updating the firewall soon?
The firewall, that's in the process right now. I wrote the PO today, actually. We're getting a next generation firewall probably before the end of the month.
And who's the vendor?
Barracuda.
Barracuda,
Yep.
which is a very good firewall.
Assuming Melissa approves. Hi, Melissa.
The only reason
No pressure, though.
there's reasons for bringing this up, but we formed the technology subcommittee a while ago because we wanted to give attention to technology in the schools, and we're probably in pretty good shape compared to compared to how we were in the past. I know getting to the point of one-to-one is, testament to that achievement. The whiteboards, the list goes on. I'm just wondering, Mr. Less, if you wanted to shift, your focus onto security.
Well, that just so happens to be my focus in my career right now. And one of the things I do is what's called white hat hacking, breaking, finding all the security holes in the organization. If you like, I could try to break into the school district.
She wouldn't
Don't want to encourage that.
I'm not sure like is the term.
Okay, just food for thought.
Well, the question I have regarding that, though, is what, typically the sensitive pieces that you're worried about are, healthcare data, payroll data, people's social security numbers, that sort of thing.
Yep.
And do we have
Student
any of that
records.
electronically? I mean, is there, credit card information? I don't imagine we have any credit card information. But maybe we have social security numbers and payroll and stuff like that.
We have all of them.
So it's all in our servers.
Well, I think Rick said a lot of it's housed off site first through vendors.
Right.
Well, that was PowerSchool.
Now that's other.
Can I?
Mr. White.
So our student information is off-site, which would not include any social security numbers or anything like that. It does include addresses, phone numbers, that kind of thing, though. We do have medical data as well. The nurses' offices all have medical data. That's also off-site, hosted on a program called SNAP. So another software as a service, which integrates with PowerSchool, ironically. So, yeah, it's all hosted off-site. They, again, have assured us over and over that they meet all government requirements. They are secure. They maintain their security and update their security on a regular basis. And they're completely encrypted as far as the communications with us. So, as far as we can determine, they are secure.
What about our use of things like lunch, purchasing lunch?
Financial
online,
transactions.
And those kinds of transactions, where are they housed
We have software for that as well.
internally?
Yeah,
I
lunchbox.
think it is the lunch, no, it's not internally because it
No.
gets updated into their registers every night, so it's offsite as well.
It's off-site, it's a banking software called Lunchbox. Yeah.
And what about special education records?
That's offsite with EastBet.
Oh, good. That's a lot of information.
Yeah, that's very secure.
Okay. Thanks. Wacona Building Committee.
Sure, I'm gonna read through some updates just because I wanted to make sure I got through everything because there's some pretty exciting things happening. So the biggest thing happening we have 2 visioning sessions coming up. They have been scheduled around the availability of Dr. Frank Locker. He is the educational planner. Many of you may have heard of him before. He does consult throughout the country and internationally, and he is a consultant to DRA. So we are so excited to be working with him, and after talking with him for the better part of an hour and a half earlier this week, I'm even more excited about how much we're going to learn as we go through this process and what he's going to guide us through. So they're Monday, January 29th and Friday, February 16th from 9 to 4 at Wacona in the library. What he did request is no less than 30, no more than 50 people. He does this routinely throughout his work. He had several different things that he was looking for and what he considered to be an effective group to bring forward for the visioning. So we had different categories of people he wanted to make sure that we had included. So we have completed the sign-ups, and I'm so excited. We actually have 41 people signed up. So, which is excellent. We're kind of perfect right there. He recommended that we have students. We have 6 students who will be joining us to participate. He recommended we have parents, and really a large portion of parents. We have 11. This is a unique district, so we have 11 parents who are participating. But obviously, within our staff, we have 16 staff, 9 of whom are district parents. So they actually have kids within our district. So our parent group is actually quite large, but some of the other thing that's important is I identified them as staff if they worked at Wacona, or they worked in the central office, or they had some role at Wacona. That makes sense. We have a couple parents who are participating who do not work at Wacona but do work in the district in a capacity. But the majority of our parents are community members who work throughout the community, and we're able to dedicate the time and to get the time, which we certainly appreciate and acknowledge as a challenge. We have 5 just strict people who are strict, not just, they're probably many other things, but community members. They're not employed here. They don't currently have students in the district. We have 2 school committee members, and we have every town represented with the exception of Washington. So if we're got a few more spots, and we're trying to see if there is anybody from Washington who can join us. But all of the remaining 6 towns are represented by participants. So that's great. I'm going to send to you, I just sent out to this full group, all of the materials from Dr. Locker. He included some resources he wanted them to look at in advance of the sessions. He included the full agendas for both days. Within the agendas, there are links to some of the videos he'll be using. Many of you are familiar with High Tech High for Most Likely to Succeed. We looked at in High Tech High what they do educationally in classrooms. This video actually goes even more in depth as to what do their bathroom spaces look like? What do their cafeteria look like? What does the artwork on their walls look like? What kind of spaces do they have for students to gather in? What is their technology? So there's a video actually connected to that. Topics that he's going to go over include 21st century schools, 21st century learning, defining student success in life, what works in our schools, what could be better, school organizational, learning modalities, places for learning, defining spaces. One of the culminating activities on the 16th will be what they call an elevator speech. So those of you familiar with that kind of jargon, it's basically if you were in an elevator with somebody and you were trying to get them excited about this project and you only had until the doors opened, what would you say? That kind of thing. So he's not about really kind of getting people to be convinced on the financial aspects. This is the most far down the path we've gone. We're usually kind of saying, go slow to go fast, we need to get buy-in. This is really when you do have to kind of start saying, okay, we're there. We've gotten the vote, we're going to now be renovating or rebuilding. What does instruction look like, and what does the space need to do in terms of furniture, in terms of facilities to support the instruction we want? He's also, which is very nice, he's given 2 additional activities, protocols you could call them, for the staff to do internally, to really be looking at how much cross-disciplinary instruction are they looking to do, are they doing, will they be doing? That's something that Mr. Robb and Leslie Blake Davis, Steve Messina, myself will facilitate with the staff between the 29th and 16th and bring that information to the group. And the second thing that we'll do with the staff, they've asked, is an assessment of where are you at really right now, honestly, with 21st century learning, and where do you want to be? A lot of his work is about where do you want to be in 2025, not necessarily next year. So that should be excellent, and I will definitely update the committee and send you the materials as we work through. Dr. Locker takes all of the notes and he formulates a report as a result that we'll then be able to use for what is called our educational plan that's required to be submitted to MSBA. That full plan will be brought to this committee for review. Also, we will have a full update probably at the March meeting because we're just going to miss that February meeting to discuss with you what came from this. And by then we'll have the report from Dr. Locker as well to share with you. So we're excited about that. We have confirmed the school building committee meetings through June. Those we're now coordinating with Skanska. You met John Benzinger, who will be on site from Skanska, and you met Vladimir, who will be on site from DRA, the design team. They'll be at all those meetings. So there'll be a working group that will meet every other Thursday. That includes some of our staff, obviously Aaron, Rob, and they're really getting into a lot of the work that Aaron, Rob, and Sean Therian have facilitated to date. And then there'll be a full school building committee meeting every other Thursday. I'm sorry, one Thursday a month, a full meeting, every other Thursday a working group. They're actually on your list, and we'll make sure they're always updated here. And you're always welcome. So that's really what's going on right now, in more than a nutshell.
Will the presentations by Dr. Locker?
Yes.
Yes. Will those be videotaped for anybody who can't attend those sessions?
They're not. I can certainly ask him. I don't know if he permits that, just knowing that I certainly can ask him. He's a consultant from DRA, but I certainly will ask the question, and I'll respond to
I
you.
just think that it might be helpful for parents that might work shifts that can't attend those meetings that might be interested in this.
As to what went on, yep. And I'm kind of, obviously learning from him as I go, but he was very, he really wanted to make sure it was a certain group. It was a group that would be with him for both days because it's cumulative, and that they had a large voice and opportunity to participate. So I'll certainly ask him that and see what his response is. He's in the driver's seat right now.
Thank you.
Following his lead. That's all I have, but if there's questions, I can answer based on what I know so far.
Okay, seeing none, we'll move on to superintendent's report.
So, and I'm going to make a note to follow up on that question for Bonnie and for the group, but just to follow up really quick, Mr. Lacatella had raised the question last time about the shed that we had talked about at Craneville. Well, Debbie took a long ride up to Maine, Debbie White, our principal herself, and has the skis. Now that she has the skis and her and Tom, our PE teacher, have been able to look at them, what they've actually found out is that they can actually build something, that if they had a ski rack and they were organized in a certain way, they will be able to organize them into the building, and they have space they've been able to clear out to do so. So they've shifted, and the PTO is going to look at somebody building for them a ski rack, which will make the skis more efficiently stored. So we will not need to go with a shed or put anything on site permanently. Be safely stored away from kids in a ski rack. So that's just a follow-up on that. Does that make sense? So that worked out in the right direction, I think. First two things I think you can read. I hope you read the second one. I won't announce that, but I hope you can join us if you are able. That right now is still something that is not in the hands of students. So the dates of that. So the other ones that I had on here, the targeted program review, I believe, was the next one that I will talk about quickly. It's still in draft form. It's a comprehensive document, so we had the opportunity, Leslie Blake Davis and I, our Director of Teaching and Learning, sat down and looked through it. There were very minor things that we had asked them to correct, nothing substantive, but mislabeling things. That they're doing a lot of work. I was so impressed with the report, and the report is not saying that we are doing everything right by any means, but it's a very fair report, very comprehensive. I think it's going to be very useful for us. So it was, as far as audits, reviews go, it was the highest level of professionalism from what I've ever participated on. They gave us some great feedback that we need, and they gave us some compliments that I think are deserved by the staff who received them. I think that we are extremely proud that they saw us as focused on equity and inclusion. That's been a huge priority for us, and it's a priority for us as a team, and we really hold that in the highest of importance to us, that every student feels that they are fully supported. All means all, and that was huge for us. Really happy, and this is a thanks to the committee who supported this role last year, and certainly the person doing the work, but they were extremely pleased with the Director of Teaching and Learning and everything that has been brought to the district through Leslie's role and really what she's put into place. And it's very, we want Leslie in that role, but I think the definition of success is she has structures and systems set up that are not dependent on Leslie being everywhere. They're very professional. And what you see is what they're referring to in the bottom two bullets on page 19 are something that Leslie, through her doctoral work, has brought to the district called the Collaborative Inquiry Protocol. They were extremely impressed with that. That's a protocol of how teachers look at data and have really high-level conversations about how they're going to use the information to provide instruction to students and then relook at the data. So that really is a direct result of the work that she started at elementary and has brought up through the levels, and has been really, I think, part of our main goals going forward. You've heard me say tiered system of support. We need to even out our tiered system, and they were happy to see us going in that direction, that we really are making sure the bulk of our students are in the tier that they're getting the most of the general ed instruction, and then as we go into tiers 2 and 3, we have specifically identified supports equitably in all the buildings, not pockets here and there. Absolutely, our challenges. We got this in October. The other thing, they were very transparent with us. They did an exit interview, and one of the things that they identified to us was measurable goals. They're talking about goals teachers set, goals in our strategic plan, goals in our student improvement plans, our school improvement plans. So we didn't say, thanks for the feedback, we'll wait till you put it in writing. We've already started to look at that and to put that into practice. And I think this will support our message to staff that you need to have measurable goals, because there's been some dialogue around this, and this is a very clear objective document that isn't me saying it or a principal saying it. The curriculums you're hearing about through the budget, we do need to finish our curriculum work in math and in science. We have done so with the units of study, moving them up through 8th grade in ELA, but we need to make a decision around math and science through this budget process, because we're not aligned there. We are piloting, but we're not complete. They did have some concerns about our instruction at the middle school, and we are aware of that. We've talked about that with this group. We have a strong leadership team in place right now, through the building administration, through Leslie, through our content coordinators. But what's nice is they didn't tell us go figure out how to do it. They told us you figured it out, you need to expand it and do it equitably. So that was a good thing. And I think that we absolutely, are using data regularly. Leslie has talked to you a little bit about progress monitoring. You don't wait and see how you did on MCAS when it's released in August. You progress monitor it throughout the entire year. So I don't think they gave us any recommendations that we don't agree with. And I don't think they identified any challenges that we don't fully agree with. So I think it was a good report, and I'm going to share it in full with you when I get the official report, which I would anticipate will be within the next month.
Will that be shared with families as well?
Yes, it's actually on the DESE website. Okay. They put it publicly on the DESE website, yep. So you'll see some things absolutely in it. One of the feedback I got was that our narrative is very strong for elementary compared to our data. Our data in elementary has big gaps. We've seen that. It's not even. But their narrative about what they saw in classrooms was really good. So you'll hear a lot of stay the consistency over time, keep spreading what you're doing, and make sure it's equitable. And there were concerns at the middle, and we're the first to identify that those teachers are working hard to address those. But yes, it'll be shared publicly, but I'll take time to go over it with you. They have a ton of data in it too, so they give you almost a booklet of here's your data. So it's good. Mr. Robb started to talk about just the program of studies. He mentioned the government. So I just wanted to make sure, even though these aren't curricular changes, you know what's going to be different in this year's program of studies at Wacona than last. They're not offering every other day courses anymore. They had several reasons for doing so, based on data, based on student feedback, based on staff feedback, that offering them more traditionally like a college model, where you have the course for a full semester. You see it like every other course. There's been some downplaying of courses I don't see every day as less important. So the same curriculum, same courses, but they're going to be semester-based versus every other day. And I listed the ones that impacts. Again, he mentioned government and economics daily all year, as opposed to just half a year or every other day. Neither worked well for our students. AP Spanish and French, and then an ongoing effort to make sure that courses actually sound like what they are, and hopefully interest kids, because some of our course names are a little antiquated. So yeah, I did include, oh yeah.
I don't understand how the course, like you say, impacted areas physical education.
Yes.
You say you're going from, it was offered every other day,
Yep.
you go to the semester model. Does that mean you're gonna have physical education every day or for a semester, or, I mean, how's it gonna fall out now? I mean, how?
So what it means is you'd have to take physical education one semester every year of high school. You could take it two if you chose to, if you were a student who really wanted to take that much physical education. But now what it will do is, we had a lot of students who were not able to take the electives they wanted because they had to have PE every year. They had to have it every other day. But the electives they wanted, that every day during a part of the year. So now you'll just have more flexibility in your schedule. If you want to take PE all year every day, you'll have the option to do that. And Kerry Mason has really looked at courses to make sure kids will be engaged who want to take that much PE. But if you really want to make sure you can take guitar, you can take guitar, and then you can get your PE requirement the second semester.
I have a question on that with our School Health Advisory Committee that met earlier this evening. This was brought up. And I think there were just some concerns with the potential gap, because you could take PE, you have to take it once a year, but you could take it in the fall one year and the spring another year. And some kids might go a whole year without any PE. And just the impact on maybe wellness within the schools, that you would have kids who are not getting any physical activity.
So here you I guess you kind of would, but you'd have to take it fall and winter. You wouldn't be, there are many high schools. So right now we have the most extreme PE requirement you can have in the state, by far. There are some that have far less. This is pulling back a little because we have had a lot of concerns from our arts department. The kids are leaving courses on the table. We've had a lot of complaints from our students at the secondary level. We don't offer any waivers for athletics. Doesn't matter if you are on 4 sports teams and you do ballet and you go to the gym every day. Most schools have something. We don't do that. So in some schools allow you to take a quarter. We don't do that. So really, this is, I think, a reasonable way for us, and our athletic participation is enormous, for us to be saying you have to take PE every single year, even when you're 18, even if you go to, Planet Fitness, but you can still take guitar. So I do think it's the most reasonable compromise for us, and they're getting more of it. So right now they'll get it every day for a semester, as opposed to every other.
Right. I think
It's just cluster.
Yeah, I think the concern just came with some sedentary.
Yep.
With, there is a large sports population. I agree that, if you're playing 3 sports, do you have to take PE? Probably.
And at our high school, yes,
Yes.
but in some no, and some no. And that, and some high schools, which you know, a lot of fantasy of what could be, have, like if you sign into the fitness center, you don't have. There's not a fitness center at Wacona, is there, Zach? There will be. You sign into the fitness center so many days after school, you can waive your PE requirement junior and senior year. We don't have those. So we've really been trying to work with Brian Rebuse and Becky Hoffman and Andrew Garcia, who are saying, I have kids, I really want to see a guitar. And so we want to try and see if this helps. But we could also track for data, which might be helpful for the Wellness Committee, how many kids on a semester that they don't have PE. Mr. Rob thinks he's going to see people still asking for 2 semesters, like a decent amount, because the PE department's quite popular at the high school as well. But how many of those kids are not in a sport, are not in ballet, are not in whatever it is they might be doing, karate, and they may be sedentary.
Yeah. I mean, I see both sides, you know, it's definitely good to support.
Yeah, that data might be good to have when we get course enrollments, to see how many, I could get that for the Wellness Committee.
Okay.
And then
Lori?
yes.
Just a comment, I mean, you know, this has been my life for the last 30 or so years. I do wellness, I look at particularly children for the last 27, birth to 25 years of age, and this is probably the worst idea I've heard since I've been on the school committee. It's counterintuitive to almost every bit of research out there. Almost everything links physical education, the amount of activity that these kids get, to their learning process. So, you know, for all the stuff that we do to support learning, there's a lot of direct link here, and there's a lot of physiology here that supports this. And so this is really counterintuitive in my mind to a lot of the things that we do. I would really encourage you to take a strong look at and I can understand it for the courses that we have.
Like guitar
But
and those
for the
is
physical
hard.
education component, and those kids that are sedentary are the kids that are not typically signing up for 3 or 4 sports and going to karate and going to the gym. And we have an obligation to those kids as well.
Let me get the data, and I'd also like to have Carrie Mason come and talk with you, because she really is a huge advocate for exactly what you're talking about, but I think has also been looking at kids who are, again and again, not being able to take courses, who really want to pursue the arts long-term and are active outside of school, because we have a very all or nothing. You're either in PE with Mr. Campbell, even though you're 17, and you go to the gym on your own, and you run before school, or you're not. Like, there's no middle ground for us.
We need to develop that middle ground.
The middle ground, that if, you know, that's something we could look at, that if you're in a semester that you're not taking PE, how are you documenting you're active? For a lot of our kids, like you said, right away they're going to say, I play a sport. For some of them, they're going to say, I chose to take 2 semesters of PE. And for some of them, they're going to say, I went to Planet Fitness. But how many are saying, I don't do anything? And let me get those numbers, because I think we're really trying to look at kids who are leaving electives on the table in career aspects they want to pursue at that point. So is there middle? But I could certainly do that and get Carrie to come and kind of talk more about it. The other thing we got to figure out, because I don't know what's going to come of this, this is really not going to apply to our 9th grade, because they've got to take a health requirement anyways, so they're going to be with Mr. Campbell for PE and for health. So how many of our upperclassmen are in this position? Those are the ones who really want these electives in the arts and the business courses. So I can bring those numbers probably, when is registration be done? By March. That'd be reasonable.
Yeah, I hope we can find a way to support physical education and activity, you know, within and around the school day.
Yeah, let me bring those numbers in March.
I have another, you mentioned waivers for kids who, and you may have just said this, there's no way to give waivers to kids who are in sports so they can take guitar or?
No, under the law, no.
No, okay.
There are some creative things that, I mean, Needham High School has a spin studio and they offer spin classes, as Carrie Mason will tell you, So if you take spin classes before school at Needham High School, but no, a sport is not an eligibility for a waiver. So that's where kids get really frustrated.
Yeah.
You have a 3-sport athlete, also dancing ballet, runs on the weekends, and is tied up in PE 11th and 12th grade when they want to be taking robotics, or they want to be taking guitar, or those are the kids who have really advocated to Kerry and to Mr. Rob. So I want to know how many of the kids who we haven't advocated but might, I don't want to say take advantage, but might take advantage of this to, to not be as active. And I'll bring those numbers and Kerry as well. All right. No, it's an excellent point. We've wrestled with how to make it work for everyone in the best way in a limited day. So I won't go into this in depth, but I think it's just interesting information. I don't know how much information you do or don't have about licensure, but it's a big part of our world. I included mine as an example. It's also just, I think, it's relevant for you to have my licensure and be aware of it. And just remembering all our professional staff who we report to the state have to be licensed. So that includes all of our administrative team, that includes all of our teachers in the classrooms with kids are required to carry a license. And really in Massachusetts, the licensure requirements are pretty strict. You can only have one of 4 types. You either have a temporary license, meaning you were licensed in New York, you're trying to move here and get licensed with us, they'll give you a license for 1 year to meet our requirements. That comes up for us a bit, because we have people who are here from Vermont, Connecticut. That does come up in this county a decent amount. Provisional is I'm a career changer. Came up, I think, a curriculum tonight. I have a bachelor's. I have some work that I've done. I've taken the MTELs, but I don't have a traditional student teaching degree. And I have a certain period of time to meet requirements to bring me up to speed to get an initial license, but I'm essentially a career changer. Maybe I have an engineering degree and I want to teach math. I don't have teaching experience, but I do have the bachelor's degree to support it, and I've taken the tests. Mr. Les could probably do that with computer science, that kind of thing. Nicole could probably do that in Aries. So many of you could probably do that. That's what that is, if anybody wants to change careers. The initial license is the traditional, I went to school to be a teacher, I've gone through the student teaching, and now I have an initial license for the first 5 years that I teach. That can be confusing though. On my license, you'll see an initial moderate license for moderate 512. That could stay valid until I retire, because I've never taught under it for 5 years. I've only used it for, I think, 2 years of my career. The 3 years sit for as long as they need to until I use it. An initial means, so say you get an initial, you go to school, you become a teacher, you do your student teaching, you take the MTELs, you start teaching. You teach 2 years, you decide you're going to stay home with your kids. You have 3 more years on that license to use. The clock doesn't run. Go back, it's still there. So if you see someone's initial license and it looks like it expired, it probably didn't. It's probably sitting. Once you get a professional license, meaning that you've worked under the license for at least 3 years, you've been mentored, you have an advanced degree, it's usually a master's degree or something of that nature, you get a professional license that's eligible for 5 years. That runs no matter what. If you retire, if you leave the field, you have to recertify it. That's why we're always offering professional development. You have to have a certain amount of PDPs in order to recertify. If your license is becoming active, it's directly reflected on a report Greg submits to the state. We don't have teachers who do not have active licenses. We watch that constantly. Does that make sense?
You said about that they have 5 years after they have their initial certification to get their permanent, right?
5 working years.
Yes.
So it could be 20, but 5 in the role.
And you said that was a master's. Is there something else?
So, if you look at my initial, the only reason I could make that a professional if I wanted to. I have a master's. I could probably count another one of the years I did under severe, blah blah blah. But it's always like, why do it? Because let that one sit. Because once you do it, you have to recertify it. If that makes sense. So you need to have used it for at least 3 years, been mentored, and have a master's degree. Is typically what it is. Some people have a KEGS, a second master's, something in that content.
Okay, thank you.
Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm.
I think it's just relevant. If it comes up, it is relevant. Our teaching staff need to be certified at all times. Our administrative staff has to be certified at all times. We're required, because we receive grant funding, to have certified teachers in the classroom, or we have to notify parents, and that would not be positive. So, long-winded way of telling you the woes of Greg's state reporting. And then the last one is just quickly, moment in time, class enrollment. If we were to freeze time today, I always get worried about this because I had 2 kindergarten parents come in this morning for future with school choice applications. So these numbers are not going to be accurate. We also had a student leave today. So these numbers are not going to be accurate. But if we froze time with the staff in the budget that you have in front of you and the kids in the classrooms that we have today as of noon, this is what class size would look like next year. I think it's in a very good place. So it kind of just shows you where we're at. If you have any questions, I'm going to bring you an updated one though as soon as we get school choice.
I do have a question. The second grade at Craneville for next year is projected to have 4 teachers with 67 students, but the 4th and 5th grades have 68 students and they're only going to have 3 teachers. I'm just wondering.
Mr. Harper, you're identifying an absolute question that's still on the table, staffing decisions around that. This is what I kind of did right now in all fairness to staff, because who we place where. This is if we froze time.
Okay.
There's likely going to be conversations about what makes most sense. School choice is also usually more likely at the lower grades, and movement is for some reason more likely at the upper. We don't know middle and high school. They have level choices and all kinds of other decisions.
Does that conclude your report?
Yes.
Any more questions for the superintendent? Okay, we'll move on to the agenda. There's no personnel changes noted this evening. I'm neither aware of old or new business. So we'll move on to remarks for the good of the committee.
Yes, I just wanted to, because we're not an official subcommittee, just kind of report on the School Health Advisory Committee, what else we talked about tonight. And one of the big things we talked about was tobacco use in the schools. And somebody from Berkshire AHEC came, named Joyce Brewer. She called herself the Tobacco Lady. And she came just to kind of educate. This group that meets is mostly the nurses within the school. Carrie Mason is usually there. She wasn't there tonight. And Rose Goddard, who runs food services, are there. And she gave us a nice presentation that was very eye-opening for most of us. And I just wanted to briefly share that with you guys. Is that there was a big surge in vaping in the schools, and it's a big issue. And Mr. Rob I had a discussion with him as well. And there's a new, what her big concern is a new device that's out that is called
Jules, I think.
Juul, yeah, which looks like a thumb drive, and it's actually charged on your computer, and kids can very discreetly, and some of you nodding their heads like you know about this, and yeah, it was very eye-opening. So then we took a look at the policy around smoking to make sure that the e-cigarettes and these sort of things were included. And the policy for smoking on school grounds was just a very brief 2-line in our policy manual. Mr. Robb said it's also a policy in the student handbook for Wacona, and it's a more lengthy.
He's referencing the substance abuse policy.
Yes, but there's also a subcategory on smoking.
Oh, okay, that's more lengthy?
It's more lengthy than what we have in our books for the district policy. And I honestly looked it up quickly during the meeting, so I may have missed something. But the disciplinary actions for smoking were outlined more in depth in the Wacona handbook. I don't know if it's at the Nessicus level, but I think it should be.
Oh, you mean, is the policy there? I'm like,
Yes.
the behavior?
Yes.
Shouldn't be, but yes.
It shouldn't be, but it probably is.
Exactly, yes,
Yes.
and yes, and yes, yeah.
So I think, maybe the policy subcommittee, we can dive into that a little deeper.
We did add e-cigarettes to the...
We did.
The e-cigarettes are in there.
Okay.
They are. But just the discipline is not. So we just might want to...
Make it more robust.
Yeah, or just shore it up a little bit, just to make sure it's consistent across the boards. And Mr. Robb also forwarded the newsletter he sent home to parents, and the leading notes were on this vaping and e-cigarettes and the growing problem that it is, because the kids aren't only putting nicotine and they're putting other substances, which I don't know all the names and I'm glad I don't. But a lot of initials were rattled off to me, and some of them were pretty scary.
I think about a week ago, there was an article in the Eagle that featured Scott Hannon. Their kids are in our district, but he's a vice principal down at Niner Mountain.
Oh, really?
So he was speaking to his concern
I know.
on that. I also heard tonight on the way home from Boston, NPR, talking about new technology with smoking that the tobacco companies are pushing. Yeah, it's where it doesn't actually burn the tobacco, but it heats it up enough, and so they're trying to say this is, you know, it's less dangerous than smoking.
Because it doesn't burn the tar.
Because it doesn't burn, right.
Right, so it's healthier.
And that seems to cause kids to be allowed to.
Yeah. Okay, thanks. Any other remarks for the good of the committee?
Sure. It's eye-opening. Really scary.
Okay, seeing none, we're going to be going into executive session once we vote on it, and we will be adjourning from that, so just to notify everyone. And Zach, thanks for sticking around tonight. I think there's probably some very useful information that you can bring back if they haven't heard it all already.
Be it resolved that the Central Berkshire Regional School Committee goes into executive session at 8:17 p.m. in accordance with Mass General Law, Chapter 38, Section 21A3, to discuss strategy in preparation for negotiations with the CBA union, and to accept minutes of previous executive sessions for which the chair has declared an executive session is necessary to protect the bargaining position of the committee and to not reconvene in open session at the conclusion of the executive session.
Okay, we have a motion and a second to go into executive session. Would the superintendent please take roll, indicate aye or nay if you're going into executive session.
Dr. Crabtree? Yes. Ms. T. Tomaso?
Yes.
Mr. Farley?
Yes.
Mr. Gazillo?
Yes.
Mr. Hopper?
Yes.
Mr. Locatell?
Yes.
Mrs. Latazori?
Yes.
Mr. Less?
Yes.
Mr. Peters?
Yes.
Mrs. Tucker?
Yes.
Mr. Wagner?
Yes.
Mr. Alvarez?
Yes.
We're in executive session.
Okay, we'll take about a 2-3 minute break and go into executive session.